Fire blood makes your piss yellow. Like a man. Manly yellow piss. None of that clear water, gay little girl piss. Man's piss. And the reason for that is very simple. We have all of the vitamins, minerals, and amino acids the body can need in one convenient scoop of fire blood. And like a man, we have made it excessive. Are you the kind of person who's going to take a supplement which tastes disgusting with no flavoring whatsoever? Or are you going to be the kind of man who takes a supplement that tastes like cookie crumble and your pee's not even yellow because there's only a little bit of vitamins in it? Oh, but I've only got my daily recommended allocation of vitamin B12. I'm scared I might pee out too many vitamins. Greta Thunberg will get mad at me for being wasteful. I don't want Greta to come into the gym and beat me up. Fucking gay.
A big win from the Trump administration, although I don't think it's what he actually set out to do, or it's kind of the right thing for the wrong reason, or the right thing for the right reason, but not the whole reason. Well, I'll have to explain for that to make sense, but USAID is over. And that was the conduit from which the government would give money to USAID, and the USAID would pay all these NGOs, wrongly named non-government organizations that absolutely are getting money from the government through an intermediary, which do things like weapons smuggling, all kinds of nasty things, coup d'etats, all this stuff. One of which is bringing illegal immigrants into the United States. And that is why Trump went after USAID. He doesn't like illegals coming into the U.S., which is good. I agree with that too. We should not have illegals coming into the U.S. However, by scrapping USAID, he just handicapped what's essentially like a miniature CIA. So it's beautiful. But what I found, and I was talking to Mark about this earlier, what is ironic is all these right-wingers that, for years have been saying that USAID is used to pay paramilitary groups in Africa, USAID is doing this, deaf, right? They're all deaf to it. Oh, yeah, they also bring in illegal immigrants. What? Yeah, fuck them, and then Trump goes and gets rid of it. So I got a little whiteboard behind me with W's. First W, he pulls out of the WHO. Second W, he scrapped the Paris Climate Accords, which is just, it really has nothing to do with the environment. It's just a theme they use for profiteering. Third W, killing USAID. That is a huge win. And I don't know that he knows what or realizes exactly what he did. And it's not like they can come to him and say, hey, but we use that to covertly finance terrorists. They can't openly say that. So he's just getting rid of it. And he started a trade war with Canada and Mexico.
Yes.
Less happy about that.
In the vein of USAID, he also, the National Endowment for Democracy's website has also gone down. And I believe there are reports that the National Endowment for Democracy is also gone. Right?
That could be foreshadowing peace in Ukraine, because that was the main thing they did.
Yes. And the thing is, like,
this is going to hurt Bellingcat and some of the British outfits too, because they relied on their money.
Yes, well, these two. Okay, so the National Endowment for Democracy, at least their website is down. I don't know if they've shut down National Endowment for Democracy, but at least the website is down. So I'm gonna find a source for that.
Their money,
because that might have,
is from billionaire and from essentially from the government through things like USAID.
No. National Endowment for Democracy gets allocated money by Congress.
State Department too. Oh, they got plenty of money through the what we call the billionaire donor class. And that's who controls Congress anyway, but they're getting our tax money. But it wasn't just that. They would get they would use them to pay for outfits for the State Department, the CIA, for whatever. And they go, oh, look, it's just a non-government organization. It acts as an umbrella, kind of like an umbrella corporation for all the other little NGOs involved in illegal activities.
Yeah.
Russia didn't learn, a lot of it's media too. It's state-sponsored media, but they go, it's not from the state. They didn't get any money directly from the government.
Uh, yeah, but so like to explain more broadly, so like when the United States wants to, it can employ in any country or many countries around the world that don't have a foreign agents law, like the U.S. does, and I believe Russia also has it. They can like employ an entire class of activists, like 10,000 people, 100,000 people, media outlets, all to do regime change activism. And this is an incredible amount of power because that means every government is aware that if the US wants to, it can just overturn your elected government, like they did in Ukraine. And we saw efforts at this in Georgia when Georgia passed a law similar to the one the US has with the Foreign Agents Registration Act. There were immense protests, and these are all basically like Western puppets that are paid to agitate for Western friendly laws and anti Russia attitudes in the government. And so, why would the US be so um, outraged by Georgia trying to have a law similar to its own? Because that limits the amount of influence the United States can have in Georgia and in their politics.
The U.S.
And
doesn't
so
enforce its own either. We all know AIPAC's never registered under FARA.
yes.
But they'll
So,
just say,
okay.
we're not an Israel lobby, we're a Jewish lobby, even though the I in the name is for the American Israel. Like it's the Israel party. Mm-hmm.
Yes. So about the National Endowment for Democracy, you could there used to be a fun game you could do whenever there were like media coverage of immense protests in a country. You could just go to their website, ned.org, and you could select the country and you could see, oh, these are all the organizations, media outlets, activists, minority groups, and other institutions in the country that the U.S. is funding. And Elon
Mm-hmm.
Musk is now taking aim at National Endowment for Democracy, but it's not really covered in any of the major news outlets. But their website is down, and
I remember
so
talking with Pepe Escobar in 2014, sort of as the coup in Ukraine was occurring. And we were just both openly laughing about how transparent it was that this National Endowment for Democracy, what it really was, what it was really doing, and how deeply it was involved in the coup. And of course, Dean, people like Victoria Nuland and we're all deep in it. It just, you think this is so stupid. Everyone can see this, right? No, that one extra layer is enough. Like it's an extra data point. Like, well, they give A gives to B, then B gives to C. It's not complicated, but that is complicated for couch potatoes. That little bit of extra information is enough to shut down some brains. It's sort of
yeah,
like the gain of function research. Well, NIH didn't give it to Wuhan; they gave it to Echo Health, and they gave it to Wuhan.
yeah, yes, but we can talk about the Syrian war in this context because
Yeah,
uh,
that's how they finance
it,
terrorists.
well, yes, but also they financed the legitimacy of blaming Assad for gas attacks because they National Endowment for Democracy gave money to Bellingcat. And
That's
Elon
right.
Musk has stated of Bellingcat before that like it's basically like a psyop machine that was the gist of what he was saying. I can't remember the exact quote, but he basically
Bellingcat went
knew that.
after the Tate brothers too. They're from the shadows. He was the intermediary. I'll get in that later, but go ahead.
Yes, yes. I believe he called them. I'm just going to search his Twitter. So and Bellingcat is behind like all the investigations um, into the MH. What was it? MH17 or the flight that went down above Ukraine, right?
Yeah, that had bullet holes in the strafes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. So like, but because it's like one, it's not directly the U.S. government saying it. It's just an organization they're funding. That's way too complicated for most people to understand. And when you try to argue it as being like Western propaganda, which it all is, uh, people just obfuscate and try to claim that you're like insane or something. They like
You know, who
and
did a
this is
good
an
write up on Bellingcat was the Gray Zone. I don't
yes,
know if it was. I
they've
think it was Clarenberg, whoever. Oh, anyway, it's on the Gray Zone. I remember reading about it. But I mean, they've all probably written about it. Probably, come to think of it, but it's amazing. Like you were bringing up the sarin gas attack. While they're investigating one attack, there's another attack, and
mhm.
the officers were pressured to change their answers when they said, well, politically, you could just see Assad's not going to gas his own side. And right after Obama says, here's our red line, don't use chemical weapons. And then he's like, oh, I'm going to use chemical weapons in a super insignificant way that won't kill more than 70 people, won't make a dime's worth of difference on the battlefield, but it'll be, violating the US's red line. I mean, obviously, it was ISIS and myself and I think Maram Sicily and others. Like, I put out this video because it was on Live Leak. The terrorists did it themselves, where they acquired this gas from Turkey and they were killing rabbits and they were demonstrating it, and the rabbits die. I think I put that on Rumble recently, talking to somebody. It's like they're just la 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 la, and they kill the rabbits, and then they use this exact same gas on Alawites. There's that type of evidence. Then you have the forensic evidence from the trajectories from where it came from rebel held territories, and you can see in Ted Postal and people like that, if they came in at this angle and da, 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 this is where it was fired from, this is who controlled that spot, blah blah blah. It was the terrorists. They blamed it on Syria. Then they had a third accusation with white helmets, which was completely staged. There wasn't even a gas attack. They just ran around dumping water on people and acting like there was a gas attack. And there was nothing there. The one you're talking about where people were gassed and did die, they said Assad gassed his own people. That's not what happened. And was it the OPW? What's it called?
OPCW,
OPCW,
Organization
yeah.
for the Prohibition of Chemical Weapons, I
Yeah.
believe. Which
They
and had
concluded
like
what I just
four
said, but
whistle.
they're like, no, you're going to change your report. Like, what do you mean?
Yes,
We have to change our report.
yes. There's four whistleblowers from that organization at the moment, right?
Saying
But
they forced us to change the report, or they just changed them, and that it did not say what we actually found. Because that was politically the
yes,
wrong answer. You're supposed to blame Assad.
yes. But there's a larger point here. So when the U.S. pays Bellingcat and various media organizations all over the globe to even in Burma or Myanmar, where they're like funding minority rights activism and media outlets and stuff like that, what they are doing is they're creating sources they can cite in their media to manufacture consent for the policy of the American regime. So most people don't read Bellingcat and their OSINT reports, but the Washington Post can cite Bellingcat and say, well, according to this intrepid open source intelligence organization, it was definitely Assad, right?
I wonder
And
if the
that is the
guy,
function of it.
the, the Syrian Observatory of Human Rights, which is one guy in the UK, is on that payroll. It reminds me of back in 2003, the little triangle they did with the Iraq War, is they had the INC, the Iraqi National Congress. It's just like bank fraudsters like Ahmed Chalabi and his goons. Same people that were hitting Saddam's statue with shoes, a little rent a crowd. They would have people like Judith Miller or William Safire from the New York Times. Both of them would quote the INC, but they would use something like the Weekly Standard or the PNAC boys would issue rhetoric from Israeli firsters and then just have the INC say it. And then Miller and Sapphire would quote them as a source and put it in the New York Times. It was all just BS about Iraq's mythical weapons of mass destruction. And so Sapphire lied about the chemical weapons under Saddam's palaces because he wouldn't let the inspectors in his under his own house, as if you're going to sleep over top of chemical weapons. And then Judith Miller lied about both aluminum tubes used as centrifuges for a nuclear program that didn't exist, as well as mobile weapons labs for anthrax VX gas, which they did not have. They didn't have mobile labs either. But that was their sources. And some of her sources, she included authors from PNAC and Weekly Standard, like Richard Pearl and Paul Wolfowitz, or anonymous, like Israeli security forces, which obviously the Israelis lie. But she had a boner for Iraq. She blamed Oklahoma City on them. So did Alex Jones. She blamed the 1993 World Trade Center on some Iraqis when they had nothing to do with it. So obviously she's going to do that. But same sort of gambit where they would finance some intermediary that they could then quote for the major papers as a source. So that there's some insignificant whatever. And they go, according to this thing we just made, they're saying this. And then the New York Times is like, well, if you get in trouble, well, we're just quoting these people. Wasn't us. But they got it wrong. We're just quoting them. Okay. Let's go after them.
Yes,
Well, they just rotate them in and out. Didn't matter.
yes,
And
and
ADL
this
does that too. They'll have the SPLC defame somebody so that, well, they didn't say it. The SPLC said it. So you can sue them and not the ADL. But it's 100% the ADL directing all the action.
yes, and you contrast this with the Russian media influence. They have Sputnik and they have RT and they have TASS, but you can't really cite those because all those sources get immediately disregarded as Russian propaganda, and you can't trust anything the Russians say. So if you want to find a source that say there were ceasefire or there were ceasefire violations before the war from the Ukrainian side, you end up having to go to the direct OECD monitoring missions reports about ceasefire violations that happened the week before Russia invaded. And that's the Russians cannot put forth a narrative and make people believe it. They can reach 5% of cranks who listen to Russia centric people on YouTube, but they do not have the same influence and they cannot shape what is reality, because what is in Western media is just taken as reality. That is just taken as fact. And the Russians don't have this ability at all. Neither do the Chinese.
Well, the U.S. uses
So
it, just puts a city on a paper. So the Washington Post, the New York Times, the L.A. Times, but it's all CIA Times. Well, they're like, no, look, these different cities and different locations all have the exact same report on the same crap. But you look at them, they're all reiterating talking points. handed down to them. Every single newspaper talked about WMDs in Iraq, said that Syria gassed its own people, lied about Gaddafi, all in order, except the Miami Herald. It's like the one free one we've found, but they just are told what to say. And the same thing with televised news. Not only are they saying the same thing, I mean the same thing, exact phrases. Oh, Assad has lost legitimacy. We can't let the smoking gun be a mushroom cloud. Too big to fail. Whatever it is,
The
they
walls
all
are closing
reiterate.
in. The walls are closing in on the Trump administration. Remember that
Yeah,
one?
the walls are closing in. Yeah.
Well, so I have a question for you because this is something
People
I
have made
I, I
videos of
once.
that too. Even stuff as mundane as Easter. Like, well, let's see. It's the same sentence, and it's on local news, state news. I'm like, who? Someone's writing this, and they just all repeat it. It's really centralized. They go, well, look, it's all these different papers. It's not a bunch of different papers. It's the same paper with a bunch of different names.
Yeah, but I'd want your analysis on what shutting down USAID and NED, or National Endowment for Democracy, is going to do for America's ability to do subversion all over the world. And because it's so, to me, it seems like Trump is just backing away from this like consensus style of politics, where he's just now doing like trade war, tariff walls, and that's how he's going
The
to
overt empire instead of
communicate.
covert.
Yeah, he's just going to communicate with people using brute force and economic power instead of like influencing government through NGOs and community leaders that they fund, right?
I don't
So
think he's gonna start a war his first year back.
I said trade war.
Yeah, I don't think he'll start. I mean, I don't think he needs these for a war because he's not planning on that. He really wants. He really, in his mind, he thinks the U.S. is getting ripped off, and he thinks tariffs are the solution. Tariffs, all taxes, and Reagan pointed this out, and many others have. All taxes are on consumers. When you buy something from the store and you pay a sales tax, wait a minute, who sold it? The store did. But who's paying the sales tax? You are. It's just added in like on the register or the computer. It's like, here's your 6.5% or whatever it is, whatever the sales tax is, the buyer pays it. So it's actually a purchasing tax. Now, yeah, the store has to pay that later, but they had you pay them and then they pay the tax with your money. So you just paid the sales tax. That's kind of how tariffs work. They're a tax on imports. This is why we had a civil war. Well, what do you mean? The tariffs were on Britain and France, which hurts the South. Because if you tax them to export things to you, you're just taxing your own imports because they're just going to go, okay, well, now it costs this much and you have to pay more to get the same goods. So, yeah, they had to pay you, but they're paying you with the money from the customer. And then those businesses, say Walmart or whatever, importing, I don't know, avocados from Mexico or something, they're just going to add the price to the product and have you buy that. So you end up paying for them all in higher prices for goods and services. Now, the idea behind tariffs is like, yeah, it is going to make everything cost more because all foreign goods are going to cost more. So they're going to sell less of them. Well, if you can get them to sell none of them or close to that, then you can manufacture those same goods in the US. So the argument is, well, if you can't buy, I don't know, car parts from Mexico or something, then it'll help with US jobs because we'll be able to make car parts and sell them, although it'll be more expensive because we don't have to compete with the cheap labor from wherever, Mexico or something. We don't have to compete with China that has that honestly has slaves making things in sweatshops. So I understand tariffing things for ethical reasons, saying, well, if you're using slave labor or you pay them $1 a day or whatever, we shouldn't be buying that, but people are going to. So if we tariff it and we make it cost as much as what we can build, then why not just buy in the USA? Okay. So that is the theory behind protecting your own industries by getting rid of competition, which will build up industries where you live, and then there'll be more jobs, blah, blah, blah. Thing
Okay.
is, if you don't have what they're making and you don't, in the interim, you just don't have stuff. Like some things don't exist. For example, all this oil we're buying from Canada, you can't just replace that. We're already buying oil from Texas and Louisiana and Alaska, whatever. If you don't get oil from Canada or Mexico, you can't just go get it from Colorado or whatever. They don't have it. So there's certain things you just have to buy, and tariffs are really just going to shoot yourself in the foot.
Okay, but I'm talking about the U.S.'s ability to subvert other
Oh, anyway, I'm
nations.
just
Like
saying
what's
that's Trump's thing is he's not aiming at subverting other nations. He wants to get rid of illegal immigrants, get out of all these bad deals like Paris Accord and WHO and stuff. And he just thinks USA really he doesn't know all the stuff they did. He just knows that they had a role in bringing refugees in the US, and he hates that, so he got rid of them. Great, because
yeah,
it's really going to diminish the role. If you don't, I don't know if we can say the National Endowment for Democracy is out or not, just because the website's down. But assuming
yeah,
that one's out and USAID is out, oh, absolutely. Like, and they can't just replace it. As long as Trump's president, he's not going to just let the next one come. So yeah, it's a major blow to imperialism.
yeah. I just did a quick AI search for National Endowment for Democracy and LGBTQ, no, LGBTIQ plus rights, and it shows programs in Uganda, Zambia, 12 Southern African nations, Rwanda,
Oh
Central
yeah,
Africa.
totally there to help.
Yes. So, but
How can
it
you have a
seems,
B in LGBT? If you have a LGT, then it's not binary. You can't have bisexuals because you have more than two sexes. Like it contradicts itself. I mean, obviously there are only two sexes, but since they started making up some new ones, then the B doesn't make any sense. Whatever.
yes,
Anyway,
but
yeah.
like
Zambia,
Elon
that's
had,
Glencore and their copper mining. What else did you say? Like you can almost
uh,
name African nations after resources.
yeah, well, it was that like they had a bunch of programs for gay people in Africa was the point, which is like
Yeah.
something. But the reason NED is like in the news cycle now is because Elon said it's a scam, and
Uganda got it best. Why are you gay?
yeah, yeah. But
You are
and
gay.
the what?
She's like, he
So
says
the
I'm gay. He goes, you are gay. Sorry. You are
yes,
gay.
so Elon is publicly going after the NED, and their website has stopped functioning, and that has been going on for at least since yesterday. Now
What a
that's been
weapon.
going
Because
on.
Elon gets a lot of stuff wrong. But when he doesn't, he has the power to affect it. So it's really a game of getting in his ear. And, he's like this 100 billionaire battering ram. So, like, for one
Well,
case, he got all behind Tommy Robinson, which is stupid. Because, I mean, I understand Elon thinks so. everyone hates rape, right? Well, yeah, but that's not the what's going on, and that's not what Tommy was doing. But whatever he backs is the winner because of the sheer momentum behind that much money and reach. So we really need to get this guy to understand Palestine, for example, or if we could get Elon red pilled correctly, he could be a huge positive force in the world.
Yeah, well, the thing about the National Endowment for Democracy is that it was established by an act signed into law by Reagan. So I don't understand how Trump could stop that from functioning. He
You
doesn't
can.
control the purse.
Actually, I had a good interview just on NED with oh shoot, it was on a Russian guy's channel and there was an interpreter and everything. Do you remember what that was? I think it was Marikov or something. Anyway, it's
Oh.
on Substack. And I went into the whole history from Reagan onward, but if it's really gone, if that is gone, man, I'd like to
Yeah.
scrap Purple Shovel and all of these, get rid of Academy and these mercenary groups, it is Academy, right? Blackwater went to Z and then Academy, whatever. Triple Canopy.
I believe so. They're trying. There's an ongoing project to rehabilitate Prince, Eric Prince,
Yeah.
the brother of Betsy DeVos.
Why not take care
And
of your own backyard? I think North Carolina's half of it's still underwater. Let's go fight that. I don't know.
well, the thing is, people like to call Prince a great military commander, but
No.
as far as I know, Blackwater has only just massacred civilians or lost a battle. That's their two. They had a Nisar Square massacre, and then they had the time when they went into Fallujah, and I believe several of their contractors got strung up and hung from light posts or from a
That was
bridge, I
after
believe.
they shot 72 people in a crowd.
Yes.
72 civilians. Yeah, they caught them they knew they were going back and forth to the airport. And Jeremy Scahill wrote a good book on Blackwater. I know he went, basically Pierre Omidyar paid him to quit doing
No,
anything,
no, no. He
but
he has left that. He has left that now. He's
I
now
was
with
getting to that.
Dropsite News.
Right.
Oh,
But him and Glenn Greenwald just disappeared for a little while. Now they're back. But Scahill's first book of noteworthy, whatever it was, it's just called Blackwater. I think the Mercenary Army, something like that. Very good deep dive on Prince and on the whole thing. They did another incursion in Azerbaijan before, and so I don't know, they mostly, yeah, they kill civilians or they lose battles. It's pretty much what they do.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Um,
It's like just like Israel. You kill civilians or they lose. It's unconscionable
yeah.
what they're doing. They just bombed the West Bank. The U.S. bombed Somalia yesterday out of the blue. Why not?
I
Just,
have some bad news.
yeah,
Um,
head back.
no, on February 3rd, 2025, Musk had a change of heart after a conversation with Senator Todd Young, stating that Young would be a great ally in restoring power to the people from the vast unelected bureaucracy. So, so
It's all
Senator
about
Todd
who he
Young,
last talked to. That's what I'm saying.
no, that was Musk.
Yeah, I know. He is whoever he last talked to, just like Trump.
Yeah. So Elon Musk called Todd Young. I said Ted, didn't I? Well, Todd Young, a deep state puppet. Hours later, he praised the Indiana senator. Who? Oh, yeah, because guess who's on the board of the National Endowment for Democracy? Todd Young.
Hmm. Let me ask you a
So,
question. Are
yeah.
you Chinese?
No.
Have you ever worked for the Communist Party?
No, but I am active on Red Note. I have 1,000 followers on Red Note, and I'm
Hooray.
trying to learn Chinese.
Nice.
So,
Tom Cotton has to go, man. That guy. He's unapologetic in his ignorance too. Have you been in the Chinese military? Like, I'm Singaporean, sir. That whole thing with TikTok was so embarrassing. Just say you don't want people to have free speech because they'll criticize Israel. Just go ahead and say it. No, wait, they did. Ted Cruz came out and said it. So did Mitt Romney.
oh, I actually have an article on this. So about Trump's recent, I guess you would say,
They banned your
uh,
TikTok, didn't they?
yeah.
Yeah.
But so the important thing here
I
is,
feel like the
let's
guy like Morpheus, or I don't know if it's the right analogy, but like
first
if
time.
there if there's a giant, yeah, if there's a giant oven that I'm way deep in the back of it because I've been banned on everything since like 2005, and someone like, oh my, such and such got banned, or I'm like, welcome, like to my home, the giant oven. First
Yes,
time, yeah.
but I okay, but so I have a book excerpt that was published in the Washington Post in 2020. And this is about a scene in the old Trump White House. And I believe this will explain some of his motivation because uh, the the military brass invited him into the tank, which is a secure room in uh, the Pentagon, I believe, where you can't record what happens in there. So Mattis invited Trump to the tank for what he, Tillerson, and Cohn, you can ring the bell, had
Mhm.
carefully organized as a tailored tutorial. What happened inside the tank that day crystallized the commander-in-chief's berating, derisive, and dismissive manner, foreshadowing decisions such as the one earlier this month that brought the United States to the brink of war with Iran. The tank meeting was a turning point in Trump's presidency. Rather than getting him to appreciate America's traditional role and alliances, Trump began to tune out and eventually push away the experts who believed their duty was to protect the country by restraining his more dangerous impulses. The episode has been documented numerous times, but subsequent reporting reveals a more complete picture of the moment and the chilling effect Trump's comments and hostility had on the nation's military and national security leadership. Just before 10 a.m. on a scorching summer Thursday, Trump arrived at the Pentagon. He stepped out of his motorcade. Let's scroll down here. Uh, Mattis, Cohn, and okay, so let me set the scene. So they're in the tank, and Mattis, Cohn, and Tillerson are going to explain to Trump how the American empire works, how it uses USAID, a National Endowment for Democracy, to influence policies in countries that it doesn't formally control, right? This is what we're talking about when we say like the American empire. The American empire is status of forces agreements and military bases, but it's also heavy influence in local politics in different nations. So Mattis Cohn and Tillerson and their aides decided to use maps, graphics, and charts to tutor the president, figuring they would help keep him from getting bored. Mattis opened with a slideshow punctuated by lots of dollar signs. Mattis devised a strategy to use terms the impatient president, schooled in real estate, would appreciate to impress upon him the value of U.S. investments abroad. He sought to explain why U.S. troops were deployed in so many regions and why America's safety complex web of trade deals, alliances, and bases across the globe. An opening line flashed on the screen, setting the tone. The post war international rules based order is the greatest gift of the greatest generation. Mattis then gave a 20-minute briefing on the power of the NATO alliance to stabilize Europe and keep the United States safe. Bannon thought to himself, not good. Trump is not going to like that one bit. The internationalist language Mattis used was a trigger for Trump. Oh, baby, this is going to get fucking wild, Bannon thought. If you stood up and threatened to shoot Trump, he couldn't say post war rules based international order. It's just not the way he thinks. For the next 90 minutes, Mattis, Tillerson, and Cohn took turns trying to emphasize their points, pointing to their charts and diagrams. They showed where U.S. personnel were positioned at military bases, CIA stations, and embassy, and how U.S. deployments fended off the threats of terror cells, nuclear blasts, and destabilizing enemies in places including Afghanistan, Iran, Iraq, the Korean Peninsula, and Syria. Cohn spoke for about 20 minutes about the value of free trade with America's allies, emphasizing how he saw each trade agreement working together as part of an overall structure to solidify U.S. economic and national security. Trump appeared peeved by the schoolhouse vibe, but also allergic to the dynamic of his advisors talking at him. His ricocheting attention span led him to repeatedly interrupt the lesson. He heard an advisor say a word or phrase and then seized on that to interject with his take. For instance, the word base prompted him to say how crazy, stupid it was to pay for bases in some countries. Trump's first complaint was to repeat what he had vented about to his national security advisor months earlier. South Korea should pay for a $10 billion missile defense system that the United States built for it. The system was designed to shoot down any short to medium range ballistic missiles from North Korea to protect South Korea and American troops stationed there. But Trump argued that South Koreans should pay for it, proposing that the administration pull U.S. troops out of the region or bill the South Koreans for their protection. We should charge them rent, Trump said of South Korea. We should make them pay for our soldiers. We should make money off of everything. Trump proceeded to explain that NATO, too, was worthless. U.S. generals were letting the Allied member countries get away with murder, he said, and they owed the United States a lot of money after not living up to their promise of paying their dues. They're in arrears, Trump said, reverting to the language of real estate. He lifted both his arms at his side in frustration. Then he scolded top officials for the untold millions of dollars he believed they had let slip through their fingers by allowing allies to avoid their obligations. We are owed money you haven't been collecting, Trump told them. You would go totally bankrupt if you had to run your own business. And I guess I can just skip to the juicy part.
Get to Israel because that's what he really. The whole reason he was against TikTok at first was because you can criticize Israel, and then he realized you can't piss off 170 million Americans, so we're going to have to police TikTok instead, the same way we do Facebook and everything else.
Okay. So here's the good Trump quotes. After Trump put forth his view, he said, "I wouldn't go to war with you people," Trump told the assembled brass. Addressing the room, the commander-in-chief barked, "You're a bunch of dopes and babies." so they have tried to explain to him how the American empire works, and I just don't think he likes it.
He doesn't get it, but what indirect benefits are. So he'll say,
yes.
"Oh, okay, there's a base in Japan or something," although Japan is paying for 75% of that cost. He'll go, "Well, you should pay for all of it. It's in your country." We're defending you. Why you should pay us for defending you. He doesn't get it. Like the radar system in South Korea that he brought up, that's not about North Korea. That's about China. And everybody knows this. But they can't
Yes.
tell him these things.
Well,
Oh well.
didn't he propose a missile defense system in the U.S. too? Wasn't that his latest idea?
Got rid of the INS treaty in Ukraine. A lot of good that did. Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
Now,
Oreshnik.
now that's the result. They can't track mid-range missiles the Russians have either. He wants to take on the cartels. He has labeled them a terrorist organization. He's very good on trying to get rid of illegal immigrants. He's serious about that. I mean, this is what they voted for. You're getting what you asked for. But he's serendipitously doing the right thing without knowing it. Like he's got his own reason, but it doesn't matter. If you get rid of USAID, awesome.
Well, yeah, like for Trump to be pleased, like when the United States overthrows a government like they did in Ukraine, he thinks Ukraine should be paying America dues. Like, well, we should skim off the top of that. Like, we change your government. Like, he thinks like, what's the goal of having an empire if you're not getting paid dues? Like, what's the point of being a mafia boss if the ice cream man isn't giving you money?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. They are paying dues, but he needs everything to be direct. Who
Yes,
cares?
yes.
As long as
You
he gets
can't
rid
have.
of these things, great.
Yes, well, that's what I'm so pleased with this. It's like I don't I don't think they understand what they did here. Like this will decrease American influence, which will leave a gap that can be filled by China and Russia.
It won't be. It's not everyone's trying to conquer the planet. You know?
Yes, but, well, you saw it worked with Panama. Panama, rescinded their participation in the Belt and Road Initiative because, but that's in the U.S.'s backyard.
That is because China has a land route through Mexico now, and they don't need Panama Canal so much. They can get right to the Gulf of America by rail through Mexico.
It's amazing how easy it has been to change that name. Like I don't even catch myself saying Gulf of Mexico anymore. It's Gulf of America.
Yeah. And Greenland is now red, white, and blue land. We're going to call it More America.
Frosty America.
Canada is it's actually reacting to becoming a 51st state. We're not going to do that. Dude, do you not know what hyperbole is? We don't want Canada because fuck that guy. Yeah, now he's the ex-governor of Canada. Trump on nothing to do with that sissy. And they're all acting like we won't let you force us to join the United States. No one's seriously trying to do that. Calm down. I feel
Well,
like an extra
where?
colder California. No thanks.
What? Yeah, but where did Trump?
Just he kept calling Trudeau the governor of Canada, and then I think on Truth Social he might have joked about it or something, but we're not gonna annex Canada. Greenland is different. Denmark's neglected them anyway, so if they did a referendum to become independent, I think Trump would recognize them.
Well, the problem is they don't want to be independent of Danish welfare.
Well, it's only like 58,000 people. So they really would have to join with somebody. That's not sustainable, but
Yes,
yeah.
but they like in polling when you ask them, would you like to leave Denmark if you
Yeah.
lost all the welfare programs? They say
Right.
no.
Well, Denmark's created a dependency program on welfare as it extracts all this mineral wealth out of Greenland, which all ends up in Denmark. Imagine if that just stayed in Greenland, they'd have money for their own welfare, whatever. I think this
I
pressure
don't think
on
they have.
Denmark is a good thing. It makes Denmark have to treat Greenland a little better.
Okay.
It's also strategic about it's Greenland's location, and they want bases there.
Yeah, because of
Biolabs,
the
all of
north,
it. Yeah.
the northwestern western sea route. Like that's going to be a major shipping lane
Thing is, you can
coming
do
up.
that by being allies. You don't have to add Greenland to America, like Guam or something.
Well, I believe America already has a base on Greenland because I remember reading about it in a book
They
where
did.
oh, they did.
They had a biolab too, but it got frozen over. As it would. Greenland has more ice than Iceland.
Well, yeah, it was a result of marketing because Eric the Red wanted to entice Icelanders to go to Greenland, so he called it Greenland, even though it's more icy than Iceland.
Mm-hmm. And they didn't want people to follow them to Iceland, so they called it Iceland.
Well, I believe they were mostly exiled people, like
Yeah.
criminals.
Gingers.
Gingers, yeah, huge
Eric
ginger subset.
the Red.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
he must have been a ginger. But then his son, Leif Erikson,
He
discovered
killed
America.
about 100 people personally. That's a ginger. That's a lot of soul taken.
Yeah.
Yeah, they did discover Nova Scotia and Greenland at least. So that is America. North America at least. Yeah. I mean, it's hard to discover an inhabited continent, but I'm just saying they knew about that and Europe too. So that makes them the discoverers, I guess. Whatever. The Chinese have been to the other side of America way later. It was like 1429. But still, they all predate Columbus. He was the first Catholic in the New World.
All right. Are you streaming tomorrow?
Yes, I've recorded this. I'm going to use this.
Oh, you're not doing it with Andrew?
I'm going to do a different thing with Andrew.
Oh, okay. Oh,
I guess
so I
the
gotta
same
find it.
deal. Let me get the recording off. Oh, not that. Let's see.
Did you just Israel my phone?
God gave it to me.
It's my phone.
God gave it
Give
to
it
me.
back.
God gave it to me.
Give it
Oh,
back.
oh my God, America! She's got a knife! Obey! Help! Terrorist! Anti-Semite! I was in the shop getting my bagels, just using my phone,
and this Palestinian terrorist, 3 times my size, wielding a knife, came out of nowhere, broke my arm, tried to take the phone that God gave to me.
Allah Akbar! Allah Akbar!